Okay, so our topic for tonight, boundless energy, how to get some. Because I don't know if you're anything like me, you probably want some, probably need some. So all of us have the experience of getting tired from time to time, not just physically tired, but also kind of mentally, emotionally, spiritually tired from time to time, maybe even sometimes much of the time. And so although Buddha didn't give direct instructions about how to increase your energy, there are many things that he said that we can apply to help us think about how to increase our mental energy, how to increase our spiritual energy. So mainly that's what I'm going to talk about, obviously, how to increase our mental and spiritual energy rather than our physical energy. So of course we have to pay attention to things like rest and eating relatively well and sleeping and those kinds of things. We have to pay some attention to those things. And that improves our physical energy, of course. That's not what I'm going to focus on. I'm going to focus on the things that go on in our mind that affect our energy levels. Because if there's energy in our mind, what we'll also discover, of course, is that we have more energy physically. You know, if we lack energy in the mind, then there's no chance we're going to have much physical energy either. So probably all of us have the experience, like I say, from time to time of where we do feel tired, and when that happens, then naturally what arises in the mind is some wish to make the mind energised, to lift the mind up in some way, or we have some sense of a need to rest ourselves to bring some energy back into the mind. We all have those senses very naturally. And we probably all have also many ideas about what is needed to lift the mind up, to energise the mind. We've probably got all sorts of ideas about what would work to do that. And we probably try all sorts of things. Yeah? So one question we need to ask ourselves is, do the things that I turn to with the hope that they're going to rest and then energise my mind, are the things that I'm turning to actually working? Or is it the case that sometimes I do things with the intention of resting, with the intention of uplifting my mind, and actually they have the complete opposite effect? You've had that experience. Like, I don't know what you do, but, you know, like sometimes we have this idea that if I could just have a few hours off and go shopping, that'd solve all my problems. You know, I used to have that thought quite regularly. When you're a nun, you don't go shopping so much. And when you do shop, you only shop for red things, according to this tradition of being a nun anyway, because you'd never wear yellow, because that always looks bad. But, yeah. But, you know, like we often go shopping and come back even more exhausted, don't we? It's like it can be quite a tiring process. Or maybe we decide, actually what I need to do is sleep more, you know. So we decide what would sort me out is if I have a really big sleep in, you know. Have you ever tried that and then got out of bed feeling worse than before? Yeah. If we check carefully, then many of the things that we turn to thinking that they're going to invigorate actually just make us more tired. Watching TV. You know, we sit down because we want to flop in front of the TV and kind of rest a bit. And actually, often what happens is the mind just feels really agitated. You're all doing very well because you come here on a Friday night instead of doing something like that. So, you know, you must be a bit wiser, I think, because most of the population are doing something to make the mind more exhausted about now, aren't they? That's what most people are doing on a Friday night. You know, you're not going to do that later, are you? You can do whatever you like later. It's up to you. So many of the things that we look to lift the mind up don't always function in that way. Often they make the mind a bit more tired. Often they make the mind, I don't know, just kind of a bit jangly, I always think of it as. You know, like drinking coffee, for example, because we often think that'll solve it, don't we? Oh, I'm tired, I better get a coffee. And we have coffee. But it's true that, you know, having some caffeine in the system brings some kind of energy in, but it's not a nice, smooth energy that's very easy to work with, is it? It kind of makes the mind a bit jangly. It's not so helpful. So what we really want in the mind is we want the mind to feel refreshed, we want the mind to feel uplifted, and we want that to be in a kind of smooth way, don't we? So for that to work, then we have to understand what it is actually that makes us tired. Because most of the time we think the reason that we're tired is that we're busy, because there's too much pressure on us, because people want too much from us, because we've got lots of things on our mind. We've got that we all sorts of things that we understand are the reasons for our tiredness. But we actually have to look a little bit deeper than that, because although that those things might be true, we might be tired because we're not sleeping very well, because we actually are very busy. We've got a lot to do. There are lots of people relying on us, depending on us and so on. All those things might be true, but we need to look a little bit beyond the surface of it and really think, what is it that makes me tired? Like, why do I really get so tired? Why is it that, I don't know, having a bit of pressure on me makes me tired? And what goes on actually in the mind? And if we check really carefully, what we'll discover is that the reason we really get tired is because we allow negative states of mind into the mind, and we allow them to stay there. And not only do we allow them to stay there, we follow them, we believe them, we act on the basis of them, we do what those negative states of mind indicate would be a good idea. And that's actually what's making us tired. Yeah? I'll give you some examples. Like when we get angry, for example. Like, I don't know, whether it's, just some minor kind of irritation about something or other. There's no biscuits after class. We get a bit irritated. There's popcorn, actually, I saw it. You're probably not allowed to have it, though. So you might get really irritated because never get there when there's still popcorn or whatever else you get. Or, maybe it's quite serious anger in the mind, very irritated, really annoyed about something or other. And I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but when we get angry and when we've maintained that anger in the mind for a little while, if you then do something so that the anger subsides, or so it just kind of subsides naturally, what you'll notice is there's that kind of empty feeling in the mind after we've been angry for a while. There's like a blank spot in the mind. It's hard to get the mind moving again. There's like a barrenness in the mind at that time. That's caused by the delusion. It's like, Buddha referred to all these things as delusions, didn't he? Anger, attachment, jealousy, pride, all those things, delusions, distorted ways of seeing everything, seeing ourselves, seeing other people, seeing the world we live in, seeing the things that happen. All of it distorted. Buddha referred to them as delusions. So whenever a delusion is present in the mind feels quite tired. And one way you can spot that quite easily is when the delusion subsides, when you start to feel better, you get over your grumpy mood, then the mind just feels empty. It feels a bit flat, feels barren. Yeah? It's like all the energy, all the good energy has drained out of the mind. Yeah? That's because the negativity caused that to happen. The anger caused that to happen. Yeah? You can see it with all delusions. It's like the mind gets a bit burnt out. Yeah? And other delusions, like attachment, for example, it's not hard to work out how attachment makes you tired, is it? Like what's attachment do all day, every day? It says, get this, you need this. What you need now to make you happy is this. Go get this, you need that. What about this? How about that? All day, isn't it? Like it's exhausting, the mind of attachment, isn't it? I want this, I want that, now I need this. Like that discontentment in the mind, always wanting something else, never just happy, never just still. We can't even sit still, can we? We sit down to meditate and body just won't even let us sit still. Oh, some bit of me's gone numb, I want to move. I'm bored now. Oh, actually I'm hungry now. Oh, can I have this? What about, I'm thirsty. I don't like this meditation. I want to do something else. I wish I'd gone to the movies. Like the mind's constantly at us, isn't it? Like with attachments, with dissatisfaction, with discontent, wanting something else. Always. That mind is exhausting. It never settles. It's never still. And of course, the other thing about the mind of attachment is it convinces us, utterly convinces us, there are certain things I need to bring me happiness, and I need to go and get them. So it makes us go shopping. It makes us go on holidays. It makes us go to the movies. It makes us go all over the place, doesn't it? running around trying to acquire certain things that we think are going to make us happy. And all that usually happens is we get tired, isn't it? That's why we go to bed exhausted at night, isn't it? Mostly because of our attachment. It's like, oh, I need a rest from the day. I need a rest from my mind, actually. Don't even get it in your sleep, sadly, but there you go. It's the nature of our mind. So it's kind of easy to see, with both the minds of anger and attachment. Anger's basically thinking I need to get rid of something to make me happy. And so we put a lot of effort into getting rid of things that we think are causing problems. Attachment's a mind that's wanting to bring things closer. I need that to make me happy. So it gets us running around trying to gather the things that will make us happy. But in both cases, whether it's anger or whether it's attachment, there's this belief in the mind that the external world is the problem and therefore I need to put effort and energy into changing it. And that's a misunderstanding. It's wrong. We don't have to put energy and effort into changing those external things. We just have to put energy into changing the mind. When the mind is peaceful and calm, we'll be happy, regardless of our external conditions. But we completely forget that. Even if we know that a little bit superficially, we forget it. Anger and attachment arise in the mind. We totally believe them and we follow them and we get tired because of it. The worst offender for this actually is the mind of ignorance. That mind that believes in an external reality and believes there really is a world out there completely separate from my mind. I am not involved at all in its creation. That's what the mind of ignorance believes. It believes there is just a world out there, some of which makes you happy, some of which makes you miserable. If you can just get hold of the bits that make you happy and avoid the bits that make you miserable, everything will be okay. That's what the mind of ignorance believes. Completely wrong mind. In the scriptures, our ignorance is often, we're kind of likened, when we have ignorance in the mind, we're likened to travellers in the desert who are always chasing mirages. If you can imagine, like, if you were trapped, you're in the desert, somehow or other found yourself in a desert somewhere, and you have to walk a long way, and you're really thirsty, and you've been out there for a long time, and you're getting tired and getting more and more tired and you're having to keep walking, and then you see in the distance what appears to be water and you get all excited. You think, that's what I need. I'm so thirsty. That's desperate. I really need that water. And we run towards it, making ourselves even more tired. And then we get there and we discover what? It was just a hallucination. It was just an appearance to my mind. It's not able to actually refresh me in the way that I wanted. It's not able to give me what I want. It was just an appearance to my mind, nothing more than that. And all we've done is made ourselves even more tired trying to get hold of it. Yeah? So that's what we're doing all the time, isn't it? Chasing after mirages. Yeah? Buddha taught everything is an illusion, everything is a dream. And yet we're chasing after things in the world thinking that they are real, thinking they actually have the power to make us happy, thinking they are the things causing us our suffering. They're not. It's our mind. So the first problem that we have in terms of resting and energising the mind is that we misunderstand what's causing our tiredness. We fail to recognise most of the time that the reason I'm tired really is because of negativity in my mind. If anything needs to change, it's just that. I just need to remove the negative view, the delusion that's present in my mind, and my mind won't feel tired. The mind will feel energised just by taking the delusion out. Yeah? So there are a number of things to think about when it comes to bringing energy into the mind. There are a number of methods. I'm just going to focus on a couple of them, and there are probably more than these, but there are a couple of methods that we can use very easily to bring energy into the mind if we understand that the mind is the issue. Okay? It's like we have to get that fundamental understanding. It's the mind that's making me tired, not just the external world. Yes, those things contribute, of course they do, but they're not the substantial cause. The main cause of what I am experiencing is what's in my mind. If we understand that, then we recognise the main thing I need to change, the main thing I need to address is what's going on in my mind. So there are a number of ways that we can bring some energy into the mind. And essentially I would say there are two things definitely that bring energy into the mind. One is receiving Buddha's blessings, which we do through the medium of faith. And the second thing is generating some merit, some good karma in the mind through mixing our mind, focusing our mind on virtue. Both those things will lift the mind up. Both those things will rest the mind in a way that nothing else will. So one simple thing that we can do then is when we recognise that the mind is tired, when we recognise we feel tired, we can just make some effort to get Buddha's blessings. Basically all we're doing is we're going to ask Buddha, please can you help me to have a more pure, clear, happy, uplifted mind. We just ask for that. Buddha's unbelievably generous. He just gives you whatever you ask for. Be careful what you ask for. He will give you whatever you ask for. That's what Buddhas do. Yeah. Blessings are, they're interesting things because we don't really get how they work. They're kind of a bit strange, really. But whenever we receive Buddha's blessings, then our mind necessarily becomes happy. Like whenever you have that experience where just spontaneously, for no apparent reason, you just think, oh, I feel really happy, I feel really contented. That's because at that time you've received Buddha's blessings. Buddhas are blessing our minds all the time and blessing the minds of all living beings all the time. Sometimes we notice, sometimes we don't. But they're doing it all the time. The method by which we make sure that we get Buddha's blessings is we generate a mind of faith. If we have faith in our mind, it's like Buddha will pour a rain of blessings in through the crown of our head all the time. If we just have a mind of faith, just have faith in Buddha, faith in his qualities, then blessings will come into our mind all the time. Yeah. So sometimes people get really confused about faith and what it actually is. Yeah. We're not talking about like a blind faith. Faith is something that arises when we contemplate good qualities in something or someone. When we contemplate Buddha's good qualities, faith naturally arises in the mind. We had some admiration, some wish to be like that, some belief that he possesses those qualities. That naturally arises in the mind. That's faith. Like we develop faith in a mundane sense, don't we? Like all the time. Like if you're sick, for example, and you need a doctor, maybe you say to someone, you're like, do you know who's a good doctor? I need a good doctor because I'm sick. And that person will say, oh yeah, this person is good. So immediately some faith starts to generate in our mind because we think this person comes with recommendation. So we go and check that person out. We check they have an appropriate qualification. We go along to see them. We kind of suss them out. Do they seem to know what they're talking about? Are they nice? All these things. We look for their good qualities. And then at some point or other we make some decision, yeah, okay, this person probably can help me. Because we believe that they possess the qualities that are needed. We believe that they possess the understanding that's required. For example, they have the ability to diagnose whatever is wrong with me. They have the ability to know what to prescribe and so on. We make some assessment that they possess the qualities that we need. We believe that they possess those qualities. And as we have that belief in the mind, that's a mind of faith. We put faith in a doctor, don't we? We put faith in them knowing what's going on, faith in the cure they're going to recommend. It's no different in a spiritual sense. We observe Buddha's good qualities, for example. We think about Buddha's compassion, Buddha's wisdom, Buddha's patience, Buddha's peace, Buddha's boundless energy. Buddha is someone who doesn't get tired. He's got unsurpassing effort. He's constantly applying effort to liberate all living beings. Never gets tired, never wants a weekend off. Never thinks, oh, I can't be bothered today. All those living beings, I'll have to sort themselves out. He never thinks that. Never gets tired. Never gets irritated. Only ever positive minds. We think about all those good qualities And then some faith arises in the mind because we think Buddha possesses those qualities. Some admiration comes in the mind. That's faith. It's admiring faith. Yeah? That comes in the mind. We just think about his good qualities. Sometimes I ask myself, I think about some of the things that I know now, and I ask myself, how did you find that out? Who taught you that? And I think, wow, Buddha did. Buddha taught me everything that I know that's of any use, actually. I know some other stuff, but mostly it's useless. But the stuff that I know that's useful is what Buddha taught. Who is it that's teaching us how to recognise our negative states of mind, like anger and attachment, for example? Who's teaching us that? Buddha is. Who is it that's teaching us how to remove our negative states of mind, like anger and attachment, and replace them with positive minds like love and compassion? Buddha's teaching us that. Who is it that's teaching us the wisdom path? Would we have figured out this wisdom stuff without Buddha? Would we have really figured out that the world is just a projection of my mind, like something seen in a dream? We'd never have figured that out, would we, if it wasn't for Buddha explaining? Yeah? How do we know how to sit quietly and still the mind? How do I know that? Because Buddha taught me. Everything we know that's useful in terms of us producing a real experience of happiness and protecting ourselves from suffering, Buddha taught us that. Buddha taught us about rebirth. Buddha taught us about karma. All these things that enable us to be happy now and in the future are due to Buddha's kindness. Yeah? So we think about all those qualities and naturally some admiration arises in the mind. Maybe even some wish to become like Buddha. So wishing faith comes in the mind. When those pure minds start to develop, some admiration, some believing faith, some wish, when those things develop in the mind and we hold that experience of faith, that mind is utterly pure and peaceful and relaxed. There's no tiredness in a mind that is full of faith. And when our mind is full of faith, then naturally we receive Buddha's blessings. Like they just pour in. Whenever the mind is feeling flat and tired, if you just sit down and think about Buddha's good qualities and just think, wow, that's amazing. And that's even more amazing that I have met this being and he's appearing in my life and teaching me. That's amazing. I bet you will feel lighter and energised, more energised. Just sit and admire. Sit in front of an image of Buddha and just think about his qualities. Immediately the mind just fills with blessings, doesn't it? The mind lifts up. So there's one very easy way to get lots of energy into the mind quickly. And another thing that we can do then is we can, if we have that understanding that the reason that I get tired is because of the delusions, the negative states of mind, then I need to recognise if I take those negative states of mind out and replace them with some virtue, which means positive states of mind, opposite of the delusions, if I take those negative states out of mind and replace them with virtue, then my mind will be uplifted because virtue brings good karma into the mind, brings merit in the mind. When there's merit in our mind, we feel quite energised. We've got lots of energy then. It's just about merit in the mind. So get some virtue generated in the mind, we'll be much better off. Like, for example, if we've been angry, the mind gets tired because of it, then we just generate some patience in the mind. Shift that mind from that mind of anger and oppose it by developing a mind of patience. And when there's patience in the mind, and patience is a mind that just accepts happily whatever conditions we can't change. It's just accepting happily whatever. Just thinks whatever. Okay, that's fine. That's my karma. That's the nature of samsara. I accept. So when patience is in the mind, we stop struggling. We stop fighting against things, wanting them to be other than they are. We just accept this is how it is. This is how it's appearing to me right now. That's it, end of story. And then the mind relaxes and we stop wasting our energy trying to change external conditions, being annoyed that the things aren't the way I want them. We stop wasting our energy on that, stop dissipating our energy. And that patience within the mind lifts the mind up, makes the mind feel light again. When we, because so much of our tiredness, if we check carefully, is about attachment, then obviously whenever we're opposing that mind and developing the opposite mind, renunciation or a mind of love, then that mind will be uplifted. Whenever you oppose a negative state of mind, the mind will be uplifted. And very often when we're tired, it's because we are utterly preoccupied with ourselves, isn't it? Yeah? We refer to it as self-cherishing. Whenever we're really tired, you notice who you're thinking about. We're always thinking about ourselves, aren't we? I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I need this to lift me up. Very self-focused. So we do the complete opposite and bring some energy back into the mind. What's the opposite of that mind that's very self-focused? Well, a mind that's focused on others, a mind that cherishes, loves others, a mind that has compassion for others. We generate those instead, then our mind's uplifted. We've got loads of energy. And it's amazing how much energy comes in the mind when we have some authentic compassion in the mind. Yeah? You can see, there's many examples in society, isn't there, of people doing amazing things, like appearing to have almost like superhuman strength and so on, just because of really strong compassion in their mind. Like no self-interest, just focused on others, just wanting to protect others from suffering, just wanting others to have happiness. And that brings phenomenal energy into the mind. It's amazing how much energy actually comes into the mind when we've just got a pure intention, a pure motivation. Yeah? If we're contemplating the wisdom teachings, we're recognising everything's just an appearance to my mind. Everything's like a dream, no objective, fixed, solid reality out there separate from my mind. It's all an appearance, like an illusion. Then when we're remembering that, then our mind's very light. Because when we're thinking that the world is out there separate from us, like there is an objective truth, when we're falling for that, we're believing that, we take everything very seriously. It really is like this. This situation really is like this. This person really is like that. This really is a good situation. This really is a bad situation. I've got a real problem. It's serious. Yeah? Someone said to me during the week, "This is serious." I tell him all about their problem. "This is really serious." Obviously wasn't taking it quite seriously enough at the time, but anyway, this is serious. And that's what we believe. That grasping mind that believes in an objective truth believes it's really, really serious. That's a heavy, tired mind, isn't it? We just lighten the mind up a bit and think, it was just a dream. I'm just projecting this whole thing. In a minute I'm going to wake up. I'm going to realise it was all just a bad dream. Then the mind relaxes. Some lightness comes back into the mind. Not so tired then. Yeah? And obviously our ability to do that with the wisdom teachings depends on us actually understanding them correctly, because it's possible to get them wrong. So I'm not going into them in detail tonight, but I'm sure you get teachings on them at other times. Well, one of the things that I think most brings energy into the mind, and probably it's not what we would expect, but it's a really clever little trick that Buddha taught for bringing lots and lots of energy into the mind. And that is to change our motivation for doing the things that we do. Try to generate a motivation that is focused on benefiting others rather than benefiting ourselves, and that will give us loads of energy. It's that compassionate intention. Bring that mind in and we will have loads of energy. And that's why Buddhas and Bodhisattvas don't get tired, because they're motivated by compassion. They're always thinking about other living beings, not about themselves. Others first, them second. Yeah? That mind brings just phenomenal energy with it. So we can use that in our daily life, even if we don't have lots of time for meditation, for example. Because, of course, one of the things that energises the mind is meditation, isn't it? And we all have that experience, even if you only get to meditate once a week on a Friday night. We all have that experience of you sit down to meditate. It's like the equivalent of a good couple of hours sleep, isn't it? You should stay awake when you meditate, but from energy point of view, it lifts the mind up, like the equivalent of at least a couple of hours sleep. Much better use of your time, actually. But maybe we don't have lots of time to spend in meditation. I don't know how your lives are, but maybe you don't have lots of time. But we can bring this way of training, bringing virtue into the mind, bringing good motivation into the mind. We can do that all day, every day. We don't have to have time to sit formally to do that. We can be doing it all the time. Like everything that we do, we just try to do with a beneficial motivation. Instead of thinking about, I'm just going to do this for myself, or I'm just going to do this because I have to, or I'm just, sometimes we don't even generate strong motivation for the things that we do we? We just do them. But if we could do what we do anyway with a beneficial motivation, then we would have much more energy in the mind. Geshe Chekawa, he's famous Mahayana Buddhist who wrote 7 Points of Training the Mind. I don't know if he wrote it or just spoke it actually, but anyway, he taught this text called 7 Points of Training the Mind. And in that he said he gave a number of precepts and commitments that we should live by. And one of the precepts is that we should do all yogas by one. It doesn't have anything to do with stretching. It means do everything that we do with the motivation of benefiting others. Do all yogas by one. Do everything that we do with the intention of benefiting others. I try to bring a compassionate, beneficial motivation into everything. Yeah. So this is really helpful to bear in mind, particularly when we're thinking about things like resting. Because, I said right at the beginning, of course it's necessary when we get tired to rest. But one of the reasons that we go wrong with our resting and why the resting doesn't actually feel restful is because we do it very often with a selfish motivation. And if we just rested with a beneficial motivation, it would work, it would function to actually rest us, it would function to invigorate. Yeah. Like, for example, if we're really tired, it's the end of the day, it's the end of the week, we had a busy week, and we feel really tired and we think, I want to go to sleep, I'm just tired. Yeah. And sometimes we'll do that and we'll go to bed with quite a kind of ratty mind, feeling like, I'm just a bit fed up, I've had enough, I'm exhausted, I've got nothing left. We go to sleep with that mind, and very often we don't feel rested when we wake up. Very often we wake up feeling like, I could do with a couple more hours. Yeah. If we went to sleep instead with a beneficial motivation, we wouldn't feel like that. If we thought instead, I'm going to go to sleep because I want to be helpful to the people around me, for example, we would rest properly and we'd wake up feeling rested just because we did it with a motivation focused on others. It's like that's the Bodhisattva's way of life. Do everything with some wish or some intention to benefit others rather than just myself. We can eat food with the intention of benefiting others. We can do everything that we need to do with the intention of benefiting others. If we can bring that motivation in, mind necessarily feels much, much lighter. It's opposing our self-cherishing mind. It's opposing our selfishness. And it's helping us to develop some compassion in the mind, which brings energy. And so whenever we can do anything that we do with beneficial motivation, then we'll feel better, we'll feel more energised. Now, of course, we have to be kind of authentic about that. We can't just say the words, I'm doing this for the benefit of others, and not have any meaning in it. There has to be some real motivation, there has to be some real intention. But if we do that, if we bring that motivation in, loads of energy comes into the mind. Yeah? Partly because there's compassion in the mind, but partly also because it's like we are aligning our intention with Buddha's intention. And Buddha's intention is for every living being to be free of suffering and problems and experience only happiness. So if we're trying to benefit other living beings, it's almost like we're working for Buddha. It's like we're trying to help him bring about what it is that he wants. It's like Yeah, we're just following along with his intention. So as a result of that, we get more blessings and more energy into the mind. So if you have the experience from time to time that you get tired, then the things to remember are, as far as I can see it, we need to recognise that sometimes the things that we turn to alleviate the tiredness don't work because they miss the real cause. They miss the real meaning, the real reason, rather, why we are tired. They don't address the issues in the mind, and that's actually what we need to address. We need to make sure that we improve the quality of our mind, and then we'll feel better. We always feel better when our mind is peaceful, when our mind is virtuous. Yeah. Whenever there's love and compassion and patience, and wisdom in the mind and so on, then the mind naturally feels better. You know, allow the delusions in the mind will always feel tired. So our job is to recognise when I'm tired, it's not just about my external conditions, it's not just about what I'm doing, it's about what I'm doing in my mind. That's what needs to change. Yeah? And then we can, if we want to, receive some blessings from Buddha. Yeah? You don't have to be in front of a shrine with a Buddha on it. You can just visualise Buddha in the space in front of you. Wherever you think Buddha is, Buddha is. And they like that. You can turn up wherever you ask them to be. So wherever you are, if you're feeling tired, just invite Buddha in the space in front of you. Mentally you prostrate, make brief offering, and you say, can you give me a hand please, I'm a bit tired. Can you help me out? Can you help me to generate some virtue in my mind? You know, generate some faith in your mind and ask for help, and you'll get it. And then as well as that, we can try to keep our mind mixed with virtuous thoughts. You know, if we're doing that, we're practicing Buddha's teachings all the time. Just keeping our mind mixed with virtue. Keep the delusions out, keep the good thoughts in. Then we're practicing Dharma. You know, practicing Buddha's way of life then. And we don't have to be doing anything externally, but mentally, internally, we're trying to keep our mind mixed with virtue. Virtue just means that which makes the mind happy. You know, keep your mind mixed with virtue throughout the day, then you're practicing the Dharma. So we try to keep virtue in the mind, like compassion and wisdom. They'll make the mind energised, and try as much as possible to keep a beneficial motivation, an intention to benefit others. Keep that in the forefront of your mind. Try to do the things that you do with that motivation. Then lots of energy comes. Yeah. Main reason we're tired is because we think too much about ourselves, too much about this real, so-called real world. That's why we're so tired. Oppose those minds, then we're not tired. Got tons of energy then. Okay, so I think that's all I wanted to say, actually. I'm not sure how long I'm supposed to talk for, but... Oh, that's what I hoped you'd say. He's very permissive, is Hugh. Lets me do whatever I want. Happy to, yeah.
So, any questions?
Oh, sorry. I can't see you out there, so you'll just have to scream.
So from what you're saying, if we are distressed listening to someone who might be seeming to talk about us doing complaining and moaning and you wishing that they would stop, this is not an external problem, this is how we're handling
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because it always feels like that's an external problem. There's this person in front of me who's, got these issues and is wanting something from me and whatever's happening. But like if we check carefully in our mind, what is it that's arising in my mind at that time? Like for example, some irritation comes in our mind. We think, oh God, they're moaning again. Like that kind of stuff. That drains our energy out straight away, and we've got nothing to give them then. So if instead we can be thinking, okay, this is someone who's like, their mind is disturbed, otherwise they wouldn't be moaning like this to me. So something's going on for them. We try to have some compassionate intention instead. You'll still have a moaning person in front of you, but we approach them differently. because the compassion is in the forefront rather than the irritation. Yeah. Not always the easy thing to do, but, you know, that's our training. I really can't see you, so if you are waving, just yell.
So, would it be a good idea to think about the 10 perfections, would you say, when you're thinking about Buddha's qualities?
You can do that, yeah. That would be nice. He possesses them all. Yep. Yep. Yeah, so if we know what the 10 perfections are, then yeah, we can think about those. Yeah. Anything, any way that we can contemplate Buddha's good qualities is really helpful, because as soon as we do that, we're just utterly inspired by this person. Yeah? And then faith comes in the mind. Yep, that will work.
So I had a question about your sect, I suppose, of Buddhism. I'm assuming you're some sort of Tibetan.
No, that's okay. The tradition is called New Kadampa tradition, so it's a Kadampa lineage of teachings. So our lineage is Tibetan lineage. We don't regard the tradition anymore as a Tibetan tradition. Like, I'm not Tibetan, I'm Australian. We wear Tibetan-looking robes, yes, but, you know, I'm obviously not Tibetan. So we don't regard the tradition itself, because all the practitioners these days are all Westerners of this tradition. So, but yeah, the lineage is Tibetan. So we trace the lineage back through Tsongkhapa and Atisha, and back to Buddha Shakyamuni. No, it's a separate tradition.
So where would the majority of this tradition be based? Is it Australian only, or?
No, it's worldwide tradition. No, the tradition's probably, I mean, like our Lama, Geshe Kelsang, he came from Tibet, from India, I guess, to the UK in the 70s. And so the tradition was kind of established there, but we've got centres throughout the world now.
And what would be the major difference between your tradition and, say, Theravada Buddhism?
Yeah, now I'm not an expert in Theravadan Buddhism, but because I've always practiced in a Mahayana tradition. But essentially the difference is that the kind of goal of the practice is a bit different. So within the Theravadan tradition, my understanding is that the aim is personal liberation, or the achievement of nirvana. Within the Mahayana traditions, then, the goal is actual enlightenment. So we have the belief that it is possible to become a Buddha ourselves if we train along the same spiritual path that Buddha practiced. So our goal from the outset within the Mahayana traditions is becoming Buddha ourselves for the benefit of others. And that's that bodhisattva ideal. It's like, I'm going to become a Buddha because that's the only way I'm actually going to be able to help anybody else.
And this Buddha is sort of living now, looking down upon you and giving you blessings, and you can go and sort of join.
Yeah, well, I guess the thing is about what we try to think of Buddha as you know, like, yeah, not someone who just lived 2,500 years ago and is gone now. We take the view that there is this lineage of teachers, and each one of those possess like Buddha lineage. So within Mahayana Buddhism, we take the view that when we choose a spiritual guide, when we choose someone who we're going to follow, then we regard that person as Buddha. So we check them out very thoroughly to make sure that they possess the appropriate qualities that someone who is a Buddha and, you know, has the ability to lead others and so on. So we check that out, but we regard that person as like a living Buddha and we believe that we can receive Buddha's teachings through that person. Yeah, so that's how we like practice like a living lineage then, rather than a kind of more historical lineage. Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay, well, thank you very much, Nampur, for this interesting perspective. I just have to get up with the cat and stay up, because I usually wake up when the cat gets me up, but I go back to bed. So I have to maybe change that.